Hey, Justice here, and we are here at the edge of fate, which is a perfect time to help you, the viewer, in solving the impossible destiny question that is, what build should I be running? Fortunately for you, I have 5 answers to share with you, along with briefly going over newly changed mods, weapon and perk buffs / nerfs, and the artifact, to hopefully make things easier for you to understand. All the footage in the background is gameplay before the expansion was released, so please take that into consideration as they can only go up from what I've shown you. 3 of the builds will be varying solar builds, because Arc is losing a lot of strength with Heresy's artifact going away, and the next one focusing on Strand, Solar, and Stasis. Void is just nothing special, and Stasis on its own is just not it. In saying that, there won't be any mentions of the new Warlock exotic releasing with the expansion, as to me it's shown no interesting qualities other than it just makes your Hellion stronger. I will be mentioning, however, how fun these builds are to use, so strap yourselves in as I reveal to you the 5 builds that I will be taking with me into the Edge of Fate. Starting off these builds, we have the Contest Nezarec Slayer, Starfire Protocol. This exotic had a powerful phase with Solar 3.0 release in Season of the Haunted, up until Lightfall release, silently dominating all modes of Destiny, and leading to the first solo Nezarec clear. Bungie went ahead and nerfed the grenade regen on hit, and made it become more focused towards ad clear, placing most of its energy gain on final blows with fusion grenades. With the release of Edge of Fate, they are reducing the amount of energy earned on final blows from 20% to 15%, but doubling the energy gain on damage proportion, buffing it from 2.5% up to 5%. And it now works when you're Radiant, so you don't have to always stand in your Empowering Rift or Well of Radiance now to be gaining the buff. These changes will also be applied to the exotic class item, which I just got a roll of with Inmost, so I'll be giving that a try in the future. For my build, I'm using the Red Death Reformed alongside 2 Demolitionist weapons of the Call and Corrective Measure. Red Death's goal to be providing me cure for when I inevitably miss my grenades and need survivability.
Nice. Triple monkey upgrade.
But you could very easily replace that with no survivors and place a different exotic elsewhere, which I might do myself later on. Artifact wise, there are 3 perks that stand out that you'll want to focus. 1 in the 3rd column and your last 2 in the 5th column. Fever and Chill is rapid solar precision hits grant Radiant, slotting itself perfectly into the new buffs for Starfire and seeming pretty easy to apply. Radiant Shrapnel and Shield Crush are the other 2 artifact mods you'll want to focus on using, as the first causes the enemies to explode with solar projectiles on rapid Radiant precision hits, and the second granting you stronger grenade recharge rate and damage while you're Radiant. A beautiful piece of synergy setting the world ablaze. Armor stats are changing where your current stats are being converted into new ones. Weapon, health, class, grenade, super, and melee. These stats now up to 100 will increase your ability regen or health regen depending on what your focus is, and going up to 200 increases the actual damage of a lot of the stats, strengthening your super, grenade, weapons, and melee. These armor stats will also now be dropping in archetypes, focusing on a main stat, a secondary stat, and a random 3rd stat. For a better understanding or view of this, I have a video on my channel about Ada 1 and her new role within Edge of Fate that I'll also have a link in the description, so be sure to check that out. With this in mind, we want to focus on the Grenadier archetype, which focuses on the grenade stat primarily, with super as the secondary stat. Pairing this with the Ashes to Assets mod on your helmet should speed up your super generation even faster. For aspects, Touch of Flame is a must, as equipping it allows your fusion grenades to explode twice for maximum profit. The second aspect is personal preference, but because of the Scorch artifact perks, I've chosen to go with Hellion just for that extra little sizzle. Fragments are Ember of Char, Ember of Mercy, Ember of Searing, and Ember of Resolve. Moving on to the second solar build, we have Dawn Chorus. Dawn Chorus is going to be providing a lot of love with all the solar artifacts and buffs weapons are receiving, as its key feature is to enhance those Scorch stacks and cause ignitions more often, with the added bonus of improving daybreak damage and targeting. We're going to be mainly focusing on the Polaris Lance, the exotic solar scout rifle that after the 4th precision hit, your next shot will load and fire an explosive round that scorches targets. Also, every precision shot refunds a bullet into your mag, allowing the swift aimers to never have to worry about the ammo economy ever again. Once again, we are backed up with 2 Demolitionist weapons, this time Pro Memoria, the Strand machine gun from the Pale Heart, as final blows with it and the Call will generate super energy thanks to their origin trait, and also regenerating your healing grenade in case you aren't able to retain the restoration timer, as you'll only be running Polaris as your solar weapon for Ember of Empyrean. For armor, our focus will be the Gunner archetype for the main weapon stat and the secondary grenade stat, although building into super damage will enhance the flaming strikes of Daybreak, making you feel like a true angel of fire. Artifact mods here are a doozy, with anti-barrier scout and pulse rifles, allowing the weapons to be overcharged and do more damage in activities that allow so, and if you don't get Radiant for the anti-barrier, you already have it right here. but that won't be an issue with the second artifact being Rapid Precision Rifling, which enhances your reload speed and reduces incoming flinch, combined with the Rapid Precision hits making you Radiant from the perk Fever and Chill. Lastly, we'll once again be selecting Radiant Shrapnel to watch the target-rich environment erupt in a blaze of glory. This build is a little slower than the Starfire build in a quick eliminations, but the infinite ammo, if your shots hit their target, allow for very safe and comfortable distance damage and picking away at these opponents, not being as reliant on grenades as the former, which is where this build can excel. Aspect wise, we are using Heat Rises and Touch of Flame. Heat Rises allows us to float over our doomed enemies as we plink away at them, and Touch of Flame strengthening our healing grenades. The fragments are as follows: Ember of Char, Ember of Empyrean, Ember of Searing, and Ember of Wonder. Our third and final solar build for this video brings us a combination of Speaker's Sight and Tommy's Matchbook. I was using this build a decent amount through Heresy due to the auto rifle buffs that released with Episode Revenant, allowing this weapon to shine alongside some support from healing grenades. Speaker's Sight helps those healing grenades become more potent and longer lasting, turning them into turrets that will continue to heal you during combat and find their way to you, no matter how near or far, and also with the opportunity to drop an Orb of Power to help keep surges up. With Edge of Fate, the solar artifact perks are going to aid in furthering the destruction of this build by providing Radiant, Scorch, and stronger sources of ad clear. Tommy's Matchbook itself is also receiving buffs with less self-damage while Heatsink is active and you're hip firing, and replacing the improved health regen on the Catalyst for Cure ×1 on final blows, aiding in the self-sustaining part of the build. With aspects being Heat Rises and Hellion, holding your grenade button will give you the Heat Rises buff and the healing turret still. Then using the Phoenix Dive while the buff is active will grant you Restoration ×2. This combination can be used the same way for Dawn Chorus as well, so keep that in mind. From there, you just hold down the fire button of Tommy's Matchbook and heal more than you take from your weapon and most damage of the enemies. Once again, using the Ember of Empyrean Fragment to extend your Radiant and Restoration buffs. And with Scorch applying on shots fired with the weapon, you guessed it, more explosions coming your way. The artifact choices will be pretty much the same as the first two builds, minus the Scout Rifle perks, but this build provides a more in-the-face experience than what the first two builds do. Armor choices will be the same as Dawn Chorus as well, focusing on the Gunner archetype, unless there ends up being some secret tech that I've missed. Gunner and Specialist will be the two to focus on, enhancing your weapon damage, grenades, and class ability, as those are the three main things you'll be using for this build. There's not really much else to say that is different compared to these other ones, but we will be using Song of Flame to further enhance your damage reduction, restoration, ability spam, and applying even more Scorch to your solar and kinetic weapons. The fragments are as follows: Ember of Ashes, Ember of Char, Ember of Singeing, and Ember of Empyrean. Moving away now from the solar builds and into a more summoner build, we have the final shape release masterpiece that is Getaway Artist's Prismatic Warlock. I used this build initially when the expansion was released, and we'll be bringing it back with the upcoming changes in Edge of Fate. Focused around the exotic arms, Getaway Artists, and the Storm Grenade, with the combination of the Bleak Watcher aspect, it allows you to make an Arc Soul and a Stasis turret from one grenade, both with the ability to proc your other aspect, Devour, which provides healing, sustain, and some extra grenade regeneration upon final blows. These two aspects work very well together and allow a lot of room for you to maneuver and set yourself up, spawning your own army of Stasis turrets while your Arc Soul whispers into your ear. These two buddies you spawn will also help speed up the process of gaining transcendent energy for both light and darkness, allowing you to spam abilities easier and control the battlefield. With Bleak Watcher losing a fragment slot, unfortunately, we do have to be a tiny bit picky with our choices, but that doesn't really bother this build too much. Consuming the Storm Grenade also makes you amplified, allowing Shield Crush to apply and increase your grenade damage and regen. Again, your weapons can be whatever you want them to be, but mainly focused around Demolitionists to be able to get your grenade back faster. My choices were in the form of Corrective Measure from Vault of Glass and Deliverance from Vow, packing a big hit behind each charge and activating Chill Clip, although you can use weapons from the Pale Heart or World drops that have Demolitionist, that way you don't have to do any raiding or dungeon requirements. My exotic weapon is Sunshot because of the artifact perk Cauterized Darkness, increasing solar damage against stasis debuffed enemies, and Sunshot also applying the perk Radiant Shrapnel, causing mega explosions. If you did want to go overboard with grenade regen and have your hands on the Warlord's Ruin exotic Buried Bloodline, you could use that for Devour instead, and then switch your Devour aspect for Hellion, spawning your third friend to go on adventures with. Armor archetypes for this are 110% into Grenadier, with any other archetype you want being your decision, but I don't believe it'll be necessary. The fragments are as follows: Facet of Devotion, Facet of Balance, Facet of Courage, and Facet of Purpose. We've embraced the darkness in the last build, where we will be using Strand, in a build that was effective once again during Heresy, and I believe will only increase in value with Edge of Fate. Mataiodoxia Warlock has been one of my favorite builds to run, with the ability to become the principal of your school and suspend all combatants within eyesight.
Is it wrong to suspend a student for farting in class?
And the built-in barrier piercing allows you to have the capability of stunning barriers and unstoppable champions with your shackle grenades. With the aspects Mindspun Invocation and the Wanderer, these two combined together are what allow such a destructive and constant suspension. The Mindspun aspect allowing you to consume your shackle grenades, causing defeated combatants to burst out with a suspending blast. The Wanderer aspect causes suspending from your tangles that you create, either throwing or shooting them. Just be sure that your teammates don't go grabbing your tangles, as it would be very disrespectful of them. The introduction of Heresy's exotic Barodiad has helped me make this build a monster in both ad clear and damage to beefier targets. Plus, having Overload, Auto / some machine gun rounds in the form of Overload Rapid Fire, you would be able to deal with all 3 champions with this build in higher end content. This weapon is craftable, so crafting it with Taken Ambition and Target Lock for those larger targets, it still has no issue running through the smaller targets, and generates the meter quickly for the Blight Seeker rounds, so you don't have to worry about it falling behind in that retrospect. You could replace Target Lock with Hatchling to allow for more consistent tangle spawning. Moving on to the artifact, Strand has a lot of strong options to apply to your build to enhance it further. As mentioned before, we already have Overload Rapid Fire selected, but from that we can also select Tightly Woven, which increases our class ability and grenade stat, while we have Woven Mail, which we gain from applying the Fragment Thread of Warding, where collecting an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. Refreshed Threads could see some use as well, depending on how often you're picking up your tangles, providing ability energy to your least charged ability. Threaded Blast makes its return and is one you should absolutely prioritize, as it increases the blast radius and damage of your tangle when you destroy it with strand damage, so be aware of that. I'm unsure if Elemental Coalescence and Daze will apply for Strand, as Coalescence creates an elemental pickup matching your super, and Daze debuffs a champion with a debuff that matches the element of the weapon you stunned it with. If these work with Strand, then they will both be very good, creating more tangles and unraveling or severing the champion. Unfortunately, in the final column there are 3 really good options, but we're only able to choose 2. Heal Crush, when you have Woven Mail, Overshield or Frost Armor, gives increased melee regen and damage. Elemental Overdrive buffs weapons that match the element or tangle that you pick up. And the third one, Tangled Web, where defeating a combatant with a Strand debuff and spawning a tangle suspends nearby enemy combatants. For this build, I'd choose Shield Crush and Overdrive, as we already have plenty of ability to suspend enemies. The other 2 just complement the build so much more in my eyes. For Armor Archetype, I would focus towards Gunner and Specialist once again. Your class ability is always nice to have, but your weapon damage and grenade regen are the main focus of this build. You could swap Specialist for Brawler, increasing your melee regen and also stocking into some health, making yourself tankier on top of the Woven Mail. The fragments are as follows: Thread of Generation, Thread of Finality, Thread of Isolation, and Thread of Warding. And there you have it, 5 Warlock builds to try out during Edge of Fate. I hope you found a build that speaks to you and that you're ready to prepare and deliver upon the 9. The Hunter video is all that's left to make, and I believe there will be some particularly interesting builds to try out in that one. Also, if you didn't catch my Titan video, I'll put a link to that in the description below, and also a pop-up at the end of this video, so be sure to check that out as well. A reminder that in about a month's time, I'll be doing a Did I Cook video that my friend Dry Milk suggested to me, seeing how well these builds went in time and how they aged. Let me know your thoughts and what Warlock builds you're using, and I'll be sure to try them out on stream in the future. I'll have a link to my Twitch in the description below as well. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Your support is greatly appreciated.